Outer Wilds is a fantastic game. It is more than just a game. It is an experience, a very unique one. In all the games I played so far, I can confidently say that there is nothing like Outer Wilds, and choosing to play this game was one of the best decisions I ever made. While I played this game, the feeling of exploring new places and solving mysteries was at its peak, and I don't think a game can make me reach that level again. Before we go through the amazing story of Outer Wilds, I need to warn you about something. Information is everything in this game, and once you have it, the game loses most of its charms, and you can never get that experience back. So I urge you to play it for yourself. Please, trust me, you won't regret it. So, if you are ready, let's embark on our spaceships and take a deep dive into the story of Outer Wilds. Before we can answer any questions, we need to ask some questions. First, let's start by playing the game for a bit. We play as some sort of aquatic creature with 4 eyes, known usually as the hatchling or just the protagonist. When we wake up, we can spot the Giant's Deep, one of the planets in the solar system, and also a strange object that shoots something and then breaks, but we ignore it for now, because we have to do other things. Today is the first space launch for our protagonist, and this is a very big day because he is the first explorer equipped with a Nomai translator, and he can find new information about this very old and advanced alien species that visit this solar system long ago, but suddenly vanish. So the protagonist goes to get the launch codes, but on his way back, a Nomai statue started to move and open its eyes. Our memory seems to be absorbed by the statue. That was weird. Well, anyway, we go to take our spaceship and start exploring. We found lots of Nomai writings and some of the Outer Wilds explorers, but after some time, the sun exploded and we are killed in the supernova. But instead of dying, we wake up from the beginning, and it seems that Canon has changed his position, but other than that, everything is the exact same. It was just like a dream. So we go again in the spaceship, but the sun exploded again after 22 minutes, and the canon again is different. Even if we die by other means, we still wake up from here. Luckily for our protagonist, there is someone else that experienced this as well, Gabro, who also had seen the Nomai statue taking his memories. It seems that they are in a 22 minutes time loop. But how? And why? What exactly is happening here? Well, to answer all of our questions, we need to go back a very long time ago when the Nomai received a strange signal that originates from the Outer Wild solar system. The signal seemed to be older than the universe itself, and it was coming from what is known as the Eye of the Universe. The Nomai clan was very interested about this strange signal, so a group of them warped with a ship called the Vessel, powered by a warp core, to the nearest place from the signal. Sadly for them, their arrival was, well, not successful. Because they were a bit too excited, they did not pay too much attention and they were warped into the Dark Bramble, a strange planet where space works differently. As more you go into it, the place seems to expand, and it also inhabited by lots of big angry anglerfishes. Once they arrived there, the vessel was caught by the vines from the planet, and a part of the ship and the warp core were destroyed. The Nomai tried to escape, so they launched 3 escape pods. The first one landed on Brittle Hollow, the second one on Ember Twin, but the third one wasn't able to leave the Dark Bramble, and all the Nomai stuck there died shortly after because of suffocation. So let's discuss what happened with the Nomai groups that managed to escape. The one on Brittle Hollow started to explore the place and construct the Hanging City, but they keep falling into the black hole at the center of the planet and gash out to the white hole at the edge of the solar system. So they created a white hole station. Using a warp core, they were able to teleport back to Brittle Hollow, but they also encounter a strange phenomenon. They arrive slightly before they even leave. The difference was barely noticeable, it was not even a second. Lastly, they built a gravity cannon, so they could explore the other planets. But let's also look at the escape pod too. After they crashed on Amber Twin, they had to settle into the caves because outside was hot. They built the sunless city inside the Ember Twin and also a gravity cannon so they can reunite with the other Nomai group. But before they did that, they also spotted something strange. a moon that seems to orbit around all the other planets in the solar system. But most incredible thing was that when nobody was looking at the moon, it changed its orbit to another planet. So the Nomai built a tracking device for the moon, and it looked like the moon orbit around all 5 planets, but sometimes it will just disappear. And the tracking device started to go crazy because it was not able to determine the exact location. When the two Nomai groups reunited, they both discussed how they found some strange stone shards that most probably had come from the moon, and they found that all of those objects have quantum properties. To explain how quantum objects works is quite hard. To put it simply, a quantum object has the ability to be in multiple places at the same time. They have multiple possibilities, so to say. But once a conscious observer observes the object, all possibilities are reduced to only one until it's no longer observed by anyone. The Nomai returned to their original mission, which was to locate the eye of the universe. So they created another tracking device for it as well, but again the device acted crazy and wasn't able to determine its location, similar to the quantum moon when sometimes started to disappear. So the Nomai speculate that the eye is also quantum, and the quantum moon does not disappear, but instead it has a secret 6th location, which is probably on the eye of the universe. So now the Nomai focus their efforts into studying the quantum moon and the quantum rules. They construct 3 towers of quantum knowledge on different planets so they could study the 3 quantum rules, which are: observing a quantum object or an image of it locks the objects to a single possibility. The second one is every object that physically interacts with a quantum object also becomes quantum. And the third rule was the quantum moon 6th location. We'll discuss that in just a bit. With all this knowledge, the Nomai were ready to take a pilgrimage to the quantum moon, a journey that every Nomai will take at some point. When they arrive on the quantum moon, they need to build a tower that will allow them to travel to the other locations, and this is where the third rule is applied. In order to travel to the 6th location, the tower needed to be in the north pole of the moon, and so the Nomai managed to arrive to the original orbit of the moon, the eye of the universe, the closest they ever been to the eye. But the problem was that they still weren't able to travel to the eye itself, so they needed another plan. They built another tracking device on Brittle Hollow to determine all possible orbits of the eye, so they could send a probe there that will locate the eye, but there were so many possibilities that it was impossible to find the eye in their lifetime. Saddened by this information, for the moment they decided to return to study the other strange phenomenon with the warp cores. Many of the Nomai didn't believe that arriving before you even left was even possible, and think that this was just some error in their devices. To prove this, they construct a high energy lab in the sunless city powered by a solar panel that harvests the energy from the sun. They believe if they power the core with a lot of energy, this effect will be amplified, and this was actually correct. The object arrived from the white hole before it even entered the black hole, so for a few moments the objects were duplicated. This amazed all of the Nomai. They basically discovered time travel. They wanted to see how much they can increase this effect, and they found out that they can increase that number up to 22 minutes. But for that they needed a ridiculous amount of energy that could come only from a supernova. And this was the beginning of the Ash Twin project. The Nomai believed that if they will be able to create a time loop that will send information back in time, they will not have to wait to find the eye of the universe. The loop will work for them. Meanwhile, on Timberheart, they found a species of aquatic creature known as Heartians. But at this time they weren't very evolved or intelligent, so the Nomai just left them be. The Nomai started to make the preparation from the Ash Twin project. First, they built 2 giant solar panels on the Ash Twin that will absorb the energy from the supernova. They also built several towers that will allow them to teleport to every planet. The final one was in the interior of the Ash Twin, where they install a warp core similar to the one from the vessel. And lastly, they built a system of statues and masks. The statues will take the information from a certain subject and it will send to the mask on the ash twin and then into the warp core back in time. The next step was to make a big gravity cannon to have enough force to launch the probe into space at great speed. The cannon was built around the orbit of Giant's Deep. The cannon also had 3 modules attached to it. In the probe tracking module was installed the first statue that was always active. When the loop starts, the ash twin will send the signal to the cannon to fire at a random direction, and then the coordinates that the probe finds will be sent back to the module. This process was made to repeat until it finds the coordinates of the eye of the universe. The Nomai spread the other statues throughout the solar system, so when the coordinates will be found, these statues will activate as well, linking with the closest being to it. In this way, the Nomai will need to live through only one loop before finding the eye. I mean, you don't want to live so many loops, that will just drive you crazy. The last step was to make the sun go supernova, so they built the sun station. It was programmed to fire the sun to trigger it to explode, so the project will start, and once they find the eye, they will just deactivate the sun station and the whole project will be shut down because it achieved its purpose. So the whole solar system will be just fine. Everything was ready and the project was activated. The only thing that remained was to make the sun explode. But that was the problem. The sun station wasn't able to even trigger a single response from the sun, and before they could try something else, a strange object arrived in the solar system, a comet known as the Interloper. 2 of the Nomai were sent to the comet to investigate it, and they found out that the comet was under immense pressure in the interior. It was filled with a deadly gas known as dark matter that kills every living creature in mere seconds. The 2 of the Nomai weren't able to stop the gas from exploding, and the comet spread the dark matter all over the solar system, killing every single Nomai until no one remained. Well, maybe one. The Hartians were able to survive just fine because dark matter has no effect underwater. This is even proven in the game. So they remain the only single living creature in this solar system. Now, I said that one Nomai managed to survive. Kinda. Solanum was on her pilgrimage to the Quantum Moon during this incident. But in the 6th location, space and time works entirely different, and because of these multiple possibilities, she was both dead and alive at the same time. We will fully discuss that at the end. So the Nomai project failed and they weren't able to find the eye, and this was their end, but their legacy did not die yet. Around 300,000 years ago, the Hartian species evolved to the point that they were able to found a group of space explorers named Outer Wild Venturers. The 4th founders were Fledspar, Gossan, Slate, and Hornfils. Together they work on the goal to explore the solar system and find out more about the Nomai. They trained aspiring astronauts and developed new technologies in order to find more informations and artifacts. For example, the Scout. It was equipped with a warp core, so they will not need to bring a new one every time it was used. Along the time, new members were added to the group. And those were Esker, who can be found on Atterlock. He likes to whistle, but he feels pretty lonely there. Rebek, who is on Britter Hollow, a timid and anxious guy but very interested in the Nomai. He likes to play his banjo. Chert on Ember Twin, who updates the observatory stars chart and also plays the drums. And Gabro on Giant's Deep, who plays the flute. Around this time, Fledspar, who likes to play harmonica, went missing without any trace, and he was thought dead for a time. But in fact, he was on Dark Bramble. He crashed while trying to avoid the angry angler fishes and his ship was destroyed. But he actually doesn't want to hurry back home, because of the pressure of being the best astronaut ever. He was known to be a very good pilot and everybody had high expectations from him. So he was kinda tired and just wanted to chill. And this brings us to the current events. The sun reaches the end of its natural life cycle and goes supernova for the first time. In all this time, the Ash Twin project was dormant and waited to be activated, and the last piece that was needed had finally arrived. The blast powers the project and the loop starts for the first time. The project sent a signal to the cannon to fire the probe to a random direction, but because the Nomai were a bit over enthusiastic, they added a bit too much energy and the cannon explodes when it fires. But luckily the probe was launched successfully and the tracking module was fine. But because of the explosion, the module crashed into the core of Giant's Deep. But it was still fine and worked perfectly. This is what we see every time a loop starts, and this is why every single time it is different, even though this is a loop. So now the probe started to search for the eye, and this process took over 9 million loops. But finally the probe was able to find the eye, and when it did that, it transmitted the coordinates back to the tracking module, and this triggered the Ash Twin project to activate all the other statues. This is when you and Gabro begin to be aware of the loop. The first loop that you play in the game is not actually the first loop. It had been going for a very long time. This is actually the first loop after the probe found the eye. If we do some basic math, the protagonist and everybody else already lived in a loop for over 319 years. And now you are aware of the loop, and the next goal is to find what is going on and how to stop the loop. The protagonist managed to find all the other astronauts and learn about the Nomai history and plans, and he also was able to go to the Quantum Moon's 6th location. But he found something weird there. He found Solanum, and she says that she is on her pilgrimage to the moon. But how is this possible? Well, to be very honest with you, I personally have no idea and don't understand this very well, but I will try to explain it. It's a bad idea, I know. Well, it seems that the more you stay in the 6th location, time seems to flow different. In all the other locations, Solanum is dead. So even if she is here, she is still kinda dead. There is an ending tied to this phenomenon. If you remove the warp core from the Ash Twin, thus ending the loop, and remain on the 6th location, the game will end with the text, "How long have you been here? Minutes? Years?" You are unsure, but it seems that your journey had reached its end. So in this ending you have the same fate as Solanum, being both dead and alive, I think. This is a good moment to talk about the endings of the game. The most basic ending it is if you remove the warp core and you just die. The second ending happens if we are on Amber Twin at the lab. If you throw your scout into the black hole and remove the white hole before the scout enters, you will end up with a duplicate. And this messes with the rules of reality, and everything started to crumble and the fabric of space and time were destroyed. On the short version, you just destroyed the entire universe. Congratulations. The exact same thing can be achieved by jumping to the black hole on the Ash Twin. In this way you will meet with yourself, and if you don't jump again in the black hole, well, the fabric of space and time are destroyed again. Well, at least you can have a final conversation with you and admire how handsome you are. There is also the isolation ending. If you remove the warp core and travel with your ship outside the solar system, the supernova will no longer kill you, but your ship will run out of resources and you'll just simply die. And now it's time for a real ending. The final ending of the game. To achieve it, we need to take the coordinates of the eye from the Giant's Deep core and then the warp core from the Ash Twin and travel all the way to the Dark Bramble to the vessel. Once we arrive there, we can switch the broken core with the functioning one, and after we introduce the coordinates, we are teleported to the location of the eye of the universe. From here on, there is no turning back. We can even see the sun exploding into the distance. Everything we knew so far was destroyed. So the only option left is to interact with the eye. So we jump into the exact middle of it. A conscious observer had just entered the eye. After an outer world experience, suddenly we are teleported to the museum. But it looks odd. At the desk we can see the eye, and the only thing we can do is to observe. Then we see other universes dying one by one, and then we are in a forest where we meet all of our friends from this journey, and together they start to sing, and something starts to form above the campfire, and when you jump into it, everything explodes. So let's explain exactly what happened here. When we enter the eye projects images of our memories. Everybody except us is dead. Those are not the real one. The eye is the center of all universes, so to say. Unlike the other solar systems, it does not die, and from here the new universes are created. And because of our presence and memories, we are able to influence the birth of a new universe. Then we see a giant Big Bang occurring, and billions of years later we can see a new solar system with new planets and species of creatures sitting peacefully at the campfire. We still die at the end. We can do nothing about that. This is the end of everything we knew of, but it is also the beginning of something new. This was one of the wild runs I ever experienced, and there are still lots of things to make theories about, or just some food for thought. Time travel is really weird. For example, the Ash Twin project sends only our memories back in time, but your body still dies. So by that logic, you died dozens of times and the new you receive all those informations. Also, the game has justification for pretty much everything, which is always a great achievement when this happens. The computer inside your ship is the best example. In the computer you noted every information you learned, but it doesn't reset when the loop starts again. And this is actually because of those cables. A piece of our Nomai statue was installed into the computer because it can store a lot of information. So your computer is also connected to the Ash Twin project, and that's why it keeps the information. Truly incredible. Okay, this section is already kinda extra. I just want to talk a little bit more about the game because it is truly amazing. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still interested in more story explains for either video games or some animes with much deep lore, make sure to be subscribed. It really helps. And like this video if you are interested. Okay, this was Marushka and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!